So, peace and love, everybody. It's a wonderful afternoon. The sun is shining. The birds are tweeting. And we're here with a wonderful friend of ours. Her name is Chantal Mudahogora. And she is a Rwandan. And she is also a minister, as well as a mental health counselor. It's great to have you here with us today, Chantal, my friend.
Thank you, Michelle.
And wow, you have been away for quite some time. I know you're from Rwanda. How long have you been gone?
I was born here, raised here. I left Rwanda in 1998. It was about 4 years after the genocide. And I've been living in Canada since then, over 23 years. It's December, actually.
Mm-hmm. Oh, December makes 23.
22.
22 years. Okay, yeah. 22 years. Yeah. All right. Wow. That's a long time.
Oh, wait a minute. Tomorrow.
Right.
I landed in Toronto December 22nd, in 1998, in the brutal cold of winter and Christmas time, and and I had a baby of 10 months, so it was a quite experience.
Wow. And how many children do you have now?
I have 3. I have 2 wonderful boys, and my youngest is my sunshine daughter.
Oh, 2 boys and 1 girl.
Yeah,
right. And how are they doing?
They're doing well. I was there not long ago, about 2 to 3 weeks ago. I came back. Mm-hmm. Obviously, COVID-19 has affected everyone, but they are doing really well. They are very independent, very mature.
That's good. So they're all in Canada?
Yes, they're all in Canada.
Okay.
I'm a proud mama.
Wow, I'm sure you are. So what brought you back to Rwanda after 22 years?
You know, while I was in Canada, I was... and many things I did in those 22 years. At one time, I was a settlement worker for about 7 years. Okay. So I got to learn about relocation. I went to Canada as a refugee because after the genocide, life was very tough. And also at that time, in 1996, 97, we had a lot of returnees of the refugees who were in Zaire, in Congo, former Zaire. Wow. And many of them, they were killers, like they were perpetrators in the genocide. Wow. So when they came back, the country was still a little bit in chaos, trying to rebuild. So it became apparent that they did not like the fact that there were survivors who knew what they did and who could testify to the justice. So they started going after us. So it was at that time that I got an opportunity to go to attend a meeting in Montreal. Okay. And then I used that visa to stay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So while in Montreal is where you were?
No, actually I landed in Toronto, and I ended up staying nearby Toronto. I live in a little town called Hamilton, actually not far from the border, the US border. In Buffalo.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. So what were you doing there while you were?
So it took me some time. When I left Rwanda, I had my bachelor degree in management and administration, and I had good experience. I worked for the International Community of the Red Cross. I worked for the government of Rwanda after genocide, and I worked for one of the umbrella of the women associations called Profam Twese Hamwe. So I had experience, but when you relocate to North America, especially Canada, it's hard to go in your field. Okay. So they don't recognize any of your credentials, they don't recognize any of your experience, work experience or education. So I had to go back to school. So I went from business and from management and other things. So I went to mental health, and I went back to school. I did my bachelor degree in psychotherapy, and then I went on to do my master's degree. So what I've been doing, I did a lot of things. First of all, I should mention that leaving Rwanda, it hasn't been an easy experience because, yes, I was broken. I had a chance to take my daughter who was 10 months, but I left the boys behind. Yeah, so the immigration process has been cumbersome, very stressful. Having young boys in Africa, because at some point they had to move to Kenya. That's where they had to process their documents. So it was tough. It was tough. I should mention that when I arrived in Canada, that's where also I noticed that how much the genocide took a big turn on my psych health. So that's when everything became raw, like PTSD, a lot of triggers, because when I left Rwanda, we were just surviving. We did a lot of cleanup, going throughout the country, trying to find your own who may have survived, or to bury those who were left on the mountains or everywhere they were killed. Some of them we couldn't even find, but we were extremely busy, like functioning on adrenaline, basically, because we were trying to find places where your aunt used to live, your cousins, your parents, just to try to clean up areas and try to find a place to live. Whoever has left, a lot of kids who have been scattered everywhere, so we tried to bring them together again. So it was after the genocide, at least the 3 months, 1 year, it was chaotic, but we had to go through it. We didn't have any other choice.
That's tough. How old were you at the time?
I was in my mid-20s, and I had my son. My first son was 2 years old.
And I know you mentioned like your family. I'm sure you went through a lot during that time. You care to talk about that? How that affected you? Maybe losing family members.
Yeah. So going back a little bit, the genocide did not happen overnight. It has been a long-term preparation. There have been some trials before that. Tutsis started being killed back in 59, 60s, 62 in the process of getting rid of kingdom and establishing the colonial system. The colonialists established what they called independence, which I don't think it was, because it was a lot of blood, a lot of killings, a lot of people being thrown away from the country, had to go in exile. So we lived through, because my parents were newly married at that time in the 60s. So they used to share the experience where they had to move from one area to the other, dumped in the south, in the Bugesera area, in the forests where there was a lot of tsetse mosquitoes, a lot of wild animals, actually hyenas and everything else. So they were dumped in the forest. So they had to navigate that forest thing. So when I was born, the situation was a little bit better because my parents had to move. But it has been a long journey of dehumanization, a long journey of polarization. So the genocide came as the last stage of extermination, but really the suffering, the pain, the humiliation has been going on from my parents' generation to us now. And thank God that our children didn't have to go through that. So when the genocide happened, we knew for sure that there was something bad which was going to happen, because we saw the warning signs. They will kill areas, like they will kill in the northern Kibirira area, they will kill in southern Bugesera area, they will kill in the east. So they will kill areas just to test the water. And there was the impunity had just took over. There was no justice, no nothing, no follow-up, no investigation, no nothing. So we knew something bad was coming. The matter of fact, before it happened, I had went south to try to escape, because they will be like, you will be leaving the house, go to work, and all of a sudden there's roadblocks everywhere, there's protesters everywhere, so you're not even sure if you're gonna be able to go home in the afternoon after work. So there was a lot of insecurities going on, a lot of grenades being thrown out. So we knew something was coming, but we did not know to which extent, to which scale. So when the genocide happened, I had just came back in Kigali, where my sister-in-law and our two sons, her son and my son, we were all just had the firstborn same time, and they were both boys. So I had came back and left her there because my leave was extended, and then there was a time they couldn't extend it anymore, so I had to come back to work. So I came back to work about maybe a week after. That's when the genocide started. So I was living in Remera, near Gisment area, and when it started, we did not know what to do. Right away, when the plane was shut down, the roadblocks were already established.
Was that the first incident? The plane being?
Well, the people who denies the genocide, they say that that what triggered the genocide, which is not true, because the genocide have been pre-prepared before. They were just waiting for something to take action, because the list of Tutsis have been pre-established. In every corner, every neighborhood. The young people, the young militias have been trained how to kill, and to kill massively. So it has been prepared, tested, and planned a long time ago. They just needed a trigger. So yeah.
Who would you say incited the genocide? Because I know it started way before all of this happened in the 90s, right? So who incited this, and why do you think this occurred?
The government. So again, Rwandan history is very long. I'm not a historian, but I'm gonna just share what I know. I spoke about how the colonial system wanted to overthrow the kingdom and bring the republic independence, like all over the world.
Yes.
And at that time, the kingdom time, our history, I don't want to go too much in the history. The kingdom time, Rwandans respected each other. They all respect the king. And the king came from the Tutsi tribe, but only a small clan called Abanyiginya. That's the clan which was going from the son from the father to the son. So when the colonialists came, especially the Belgium, because we started with the German and then Belgium took over. When they came, they realized that it wasn't easy. The kingdom had a strong structure. They had a strong administration. They had strong leadership. They had strong administration. They had strong leadership. They had a force system. All they needed was just to have something development, like bringing clothes, matches to light up the fire and so forth, and the schools. But they couldn't penetrate the kingdom system because it's already, and they wouldn't. It was strong, and they wouldn't bow to anyone. They just wanted people to come as partners, not to come as people to take over. So the colonialists did not like the idea. So they wanted, because their motto was to divide and conquer. Right. So they couldn't divide the Rwandans. They had their way of praying. They have their way of worshiping God. They had their way of trusting the king and the justice system. So you were not allowed to, if I sin against you as my neighbor or my friend or my whatever, you sinning against the king. And there was a way of repenting for that, and there was a way of justice for that. So they couldn't penetrate that system. So that's why they started saying, oh, by the way. So in 1933, they started establishing ethnic groups into our identity cards. So when I was born, the identity card will say Tutsi, Hutu, Twa. And how they divided the Rwandans, it was more of social class, meaning that cows have always played a big role in the Rwandan community, and it was a sign of worth. So they were say that if you had less than 10 cows, you were Hutu. If you had more than 10 cows, you were Tutsi.
Okay.
So that's how, and they did other things. That they will measure the length of your nose. They will measure the length of your ribs.
Wow.
To know who is Hutu, who is Tutsi. So it was all because Rwanda has always been a nation. We have always been one language, one culture, one belief. So they couldn't find the division between the tribes. So they had to find a way to divide us. Okay. So they ended up by putting the ethnic groups in the identity card. They were able to say, okay, by the way, the Hutu are majority, so therefore Tutsis shouldn't rule over majority community.
Wow.
So that's how they started telling. They took some Hutu elites, they sent them back in Belgium to teach them administration and so forth. So when they come back, probably brainwash them too. When they come back, they could overthrow the kingdom. Wow. So there's a lot of things which happen, and then the king was killed on his way to Brussels in a meeting. So there's a lot of things they did to divide Rwandans and also to incite the killings and the burning. They burned the houses and so forth. But having said all of that, it doesn't take away the responsibility of those who took part of the killings and the perpetrators. So talking about who planned it, so it takes roots from that time, and then the government, which was established by the belligerents, through the chaos and letting Tutsis fled away from the country and going to exiles in neighboring countries, and after that they spread all over in the world. So we have Tutsis who have been living in the neighboring countries, in the refugee camps from that time of 1960s. Wow. They got kids after kids, generation after generation, in refugee camps in Uganda, in Burundi, in Zaire, Congo, DRC, former Zaire. So those refugees, they were Tutsis, who were pushed out of the country in 1960s. So when they were under hospice of UNHCR, the High Commission of Refugees, from the UN, and apparently in their law, the people can't be under them over 3 decades, over 30 years. Oh. If you are a refugee for 30 years, they don't support you anymore. You have to find a country to accept you as a national. You have to get citizenship from where you are a refugee, or go back to your country, or you will be taken to another country which can take you as a citizen. So the Tutsis who were in the neighboring countries were never given that opportunity to be citizens of those countries or whatever. So they still lived in the refugee camps. So back in the 1980s, there was a lot of lobbying going on among the children of our forefathers who were exiled, just trying to get the international community attention to help them either go back to their country or be established somewhere else. Okay. But all of those lobby initiatives, they were futile. Nobody wanted to listen to them. They were an attempt back in the early 80s, 82 I think, where Uganda, Idi Amin, pushed them back to the border. Okay. And then the government of Rwanda killed them, did not allow them to enter, so they were crushed in between.
Okay.
Yeah, wow. So
the government at that time was still the colonizers.
No, 82. No, 82. They were supposedly gone back in the 60s. We got the independence, I think it was 62, 1st of July 62, but they really never left. It was just a new form of colonization, but the leadership in Rwanda, they had the hand behind, and they were just puppets to be manipulated. So apparently, so at that time they were crushed in between. So there was no more because the Rwandan government at the time, they had a belief that Rwanda is for There's no more room for anyone. We can't take no more people from outside because Rwanda is small and we are overpopulated and it is full. Which brings me to what is happening today with repatriation, which shows you how we have a new Rwanda altogether. In the past, Rwanda was full. We couldn't get those Rwandans to come in the country, but the new leadership is calling all the Rwandans all over the world, even if you don't want to come establish here, but come visit your country. Come, experience wonderful. And then not only we are taking in our citizens, but also we are telling the world this is a country where everybody have a spot. You can find your space here. There's a country, a land of opportunity. So you were asking who did it. So the government did it. You will never have a genocide without the government involvement, because the government plans it. They started burning us like Rwandan. I couldn't, growing up as a young child, I would be humiliated all the time, being asked to say if I was Hutu or Tutsi. They would say Hutu, hands up, Tutsi, hands up. And because we were always minorities, they were boo us, they were, humiliate you. You are at the age of 8, 9, you don't even know who you are, you don't even know what it is, but they're still humiliating you. So it was a long term of paralyzing and dehumanization. So the government planned it, they made it happen. They trained massive people to carry the work. When you break it down, we lost over a million of people in 100 days. When you break the numbers down, 7 people were killed every minute, 10,000 people were killed every day. And we're talking about babies, unborn babies. The way they carried this genocide, it was just, they would torture you before they kill you. When you hear stories from survivors, sometimes it's unbelievable to hear how deep human being can go. Wow. Opening a Tutsi woman womb while pregnant to see how the baby is laying in the stomach. Like, some of the graphic are very horrific when you think about it. So so then the genocide happened in those three months. How did we survive? It was just a miracle. But going back to why, there's no why really. There's no why of a countrymen killing their own. There's no Tutsi land or Hutu land in Rwanda, so we've been living together all along. They were our neighbors, went to school together. They were our colleagues, co-workers. We shared everything, but just they turn around and kill you and kill your people. Wow, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Yes, yeah. It's beyond human imagination. Even for us who lived through it, sometimes when we talk among ourselves, we just say, "This is not." It's hard to comprehend. It's very hard to comprehend. So going back to the refugees, though, giving you a little bit of background, when all the lobby was failed, the younger women and younger men in the refugee camps took on weapons and they tried to come forcefully. Because negotiations and other things have failed. The UN agencies, UN headquarters did not want to move. The international community did not want to help. So they took their fate in their own hands. So most of those who were in Uganda had already fought in the lines with Museveni when Museveni was overthrowing Idi Amin. So they had already, because when you have nothing to do, these kids couldn't go to school, couldn't have any opportunities. Their parents were living in the refugee camps. They took off and went to fight along Museveni. So back in 90, specifically October 1st, 1990, that's the first attack of those refugee children trying to come home or try to negotiate to come home. Because at that time, 90 was the 30th year of being in the refugee camps. Wow. 60 to 90. So that was the time where UNHCR was supposed to dump them, and they did not have nowhere to go. And so they took weapons, and it was a call to all Rwandans who have been even abroad. It was a mass. The Rwandans lost their country without their willingness. They did not choose to do so. So it was a call to all Rwandans who were outside and who could never come to Rwanda. My dad had a brother whom they separated back in the 60s. He never saw him again.
Wow.
He went to Uganda. My dad stayed here. And right now, after the genocide, that's why we retrieved the kids, because he was dead. He died in exile and never saw my dad anymore. So, which means that most of families were split that way. So, which means when the RPF and RPA started the war, the Rwanda Patriotic Front was the political wing, and Rwanda Patriotic Army was the army wing. When they started the war, the liberation war, most of Rwandan young people joined because they knew they would never live outside for good. They wanted to come home and have a country.
So Rwandans had to fight.
They did.
For their country.
Yeah, that's the...
Would you say that, did anyone come to the rescue of Rwanda during that time?
Nobody. The genocide was committed by Rwandans, and the genocide was stopped by Rwandans.
Wow.
Nobody lifted a finger. We were being killed on a broad light. We had satellites all over our sky watching what was happening, but no one lifted a finger to save us.
Because I'll tell you that the most that we get to try to educate ourselves prior to talking to you and other local people who know the true story, the best we could get is the movie, the Hollywood blockbuster, Hotel Rwanda. So I think people, it scared a lot of people who really didn't know what happened here. And when they watch it, it's like, whoa, is this real? You know, why did they do that? So they don't get the backstory.
No.
To this beginning way beyond the 90s.
No.
We don't get that.
You know,
so how true is that movie? Have you seen it?
I would say this. Yeah, I saw it, and when I saw it the first time, I was angry.
Okay.
I was frustrated. I was insulted. There's nothing more which can re-victimize a genocide survivor as not telling the true story of what happened to us. And when I saw the movie, that's exactly what I felt.
Wow.
I felt I was being robbed.
Wow.
I thought it's scam because the world was duped. Because that's not even a 0 point whatever % of the story. Wow. First of all, the hero is a fake hero. The so-called hero of the movie is a fake hero. He never saved no one. You can tell he's being tried now in the justice in the court of justice, and he has admitted all of that. He never saved. When you talk to the survivors who were in the Miracle Inn Hotel, they will tell you. He asked them for checks. During the genocide, where you are running away for your life, he asked you a check. He asked them money. They will have to empty their pockets to give money so he can admit them in the hotel. He was a cook at the beginning, but when the white people who were managing the hotel left, he was the one left on hierarchy as a staff of the hotel. He made them drink the water from the pool while they could drink running water in the house.
Swimming pool.
So he anyways. Yeah. So the Hotel Rwanda is just a Hollywood fiction movie.
And you know what's sad is that most people who see that's what they believe. You know, so and then we don't know, like it goes way beyond that time.
So you think
period.
something happened suddenly?
It just happened just like that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they're savages. What did, you know?
Yeah,
It's not true.
No. So yeah,
Wow.
the history is complex. And that's why, and we don't document.
And I noticed that a lot of hands being left out. If now you analyze that film, a lot of hands are being left out.
There was one
of what
man hero.
really happened.
There was one man hero.
And who was that?
the Rusesabagina, the scam guy, the self-imposter. When I was in North America, he used to go around in schools telling lies.
Ooh.
And I commit myself to be following him wherever he goes. Wow. And when he goes, he sees a bunch of Rwandans in the room. He couldn't even talk. That's how we stopped him talking. Because he would go in the colleges and whatever, they portrayed him as a hero who saved the 1,200 of one Tutsi. It was all just a scam.
Wow. We really learning a lot today. A lot.
And that's why he's in justice. And he did that knowing that he wanted... See, that's the thing with Rwanda. Okay. There are people who still believe this Rwanda belongs to one ethnic group. They want to come back and take over. Those who committed the genocide never admitted the fact that someone else can come in and rule this country and make actually this country go back to the map. This country was wiped off from the Atlas. Why? Because it was just forgotten. It was a chaos. Some people believed that Rwanda will never bounce back. Some people believed that Rwanda there's no interest. Because I can tell you this, when the genocide happened in April, that year, in September, the troubles in the Balkan happened, back in Kosovo and Serbians. That's where the genocide happened. You can't believe how much deployment from the UN and international community was deployed there to save people. Like retired General Romeo Dallaire always says it. He says they are less human beings more than human beings, depending on the color. Because the deployment they made in that country to stop the killings there, it's beyond. It's unimaginable. But the Rwandans, because there's no underground oil or whatever, because the skin color. So there was nobody wanted to lift a finger.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So, like, you just forgotten about Rwanda. It's almost like forget about them.
Yeah, it is a failed state. It's tribal killings. They did not talk about the genocide until the end of the genocide. They were talking about massacres, tribal killings. Who cares? African kill each other anyways. Who cares? Let them die. We don't want to have the same experience as Somalia. So we're left to our own.
Wow. Ooh, it's amazing. But
it's heavy, eh?
It's heavy. It's heavy. So thinking back to the landscape, what things looked like through your own eyes, your own lens, how would you compare it to Rwanda today? What did that look like?
Oh, it's a day and night.
Day and night.
There's no comparison.
Wow.
It's amazing being born here in Kigali, actually, growing here, go outside and come back to Rwanda. I've seen Rwanda to the bottom of where it could be. Where the bodies were still laying all over the place, where the homes were destroyed, where kids were just roaming on the streets with no being taken care of, where the dogs took over the city, killing, eating fresh bodies. And so from that, all the infrastructures,
So there was nothing?
Nothing. No food, no water, no electricity, no nothing, and no life. Basically, to the point where, like in my case, I started wondering, why did we survive anyways? Because there's nothing to live on.
Wow.
You have nobody left. My parents were killed same day, April 10th.
I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry.
So, like, what could make you hold on life? There was nothing. Everything was lost. So, the good thing, our leader today, our president today, was leading the army which stopped the genocide from not having enough equipment, not having enough men, when you compare what they had and what the government had with the support of France, of the French government, there was no comparison.
Wow.
But all they had was determination, and they were motivated to save their people. and to get the country, to liberate the country. So you can only imagine these young men and young women who were fighting along with the RPA coming to the villages. They can't find no one breathing, or find in the pile of bodies, they find people still breathing. They had to rescue them, carry them in their backs, and fight at the same time. It was just what they did. It's beyond like human imagination.
It's inhuman.
Yeah. So the power they had in themselves, the motivation, the consistency, it just took. So, and no wonder why we see what we see today. That same determination which helped them to rescue this country is the same determination that they have today to put back this country to the map.
Yeah. I can't even believe it.
It's hard to believe.
What you described.
It's hard to believe after.
And then what we see now.
26 years. You wouldn't believe.
Unbelievable.
I talked to younger generation, post-genocide generation. Wow. They don't understand either, because they were born.
I'm sure they don't. Like
no,
the
you
way
know,
things are now.
They were born.
It's
in this era where they hear history like you hear history.
Wow.
They know just because they have family members who have been killed and why they were killed and so forth, but really they have no clue.
So we also hear that heard stories of how the Catholic churches played a part in some of this.
Well,
what happened with that? Is that true?
Not only Catholic Church, the Catholic Church, church in general, and other religion too, Muslim too. Church. So back in 50s, there was this philosophy that they could run to churches to escape or to have refuge in there. Tutsis tried to do the same in 1994. But the preparation, the scale of preparation was beyond what happened in the past. So they were saying, here's what they were saying to us: even God has abandoned us, so we don't deserve to live. When they did the dehumanization, they were calling us names: crocodiles, snakes, whatever you call it. And so killing a snake or killing a crocodile, it's not a crime. So like in my village, about 6,000 Tutsis took refuge in our local parish. And my mom in the church. My mom was actually very involved in the church. But guess what? The clergy killed their own in that church. That was Roman Catholic Church, but when you go to other churches too, it happened too.
That's heavy.
It is heavy.
A place where you think you'll be safe.
Exactly.
Wow.
And that goes back again to the colonial system, because the new belief of what we know today as Christianity was brought by the colonialists. And they came hand in hand with the priests. Right. So they forced Rwandans to change their belief. And they were telling them that replacing their God with a true God. So Rwandans believed in it only because they knew some of them will practice both. They will go to the traditional way of belief, and then they will try to embrace the new way brought by the priests and the colonialists, the white people, only just to make sure that they get what they had to get, so they can go to school, so they can get some stuff. But belief inside, it wasn't there. So what the Rwandans already had in mind of a bad image of these colonialists and the white priests who came along with them. So what they thought as love, God creator, the high power, they did not practice what they were preaching. So they were telling us to love each other, but at the same time, they are going behind us to do evil to us. So that's why even the preaching, the teaching never really pierced people's hearts, because those who brought the belief took away their belief, but also did evil. So So there was a conflict between the culture, the belief, what they knew as God, how to worship God, and then what was brought to them. So there was a conflict in between two beliefs.
So do you think majority, or would you say majority of the Rwandans have, how should I say it, abandoned their cultural, religious beliefs to adopt?
We are seeing a big movement now of going back to the origin, saying the whole Christianity brought by the white men divided us. So after the genocide, we saw all kind of differences. When you look at it on maybe psychology or sociology or anthropology, whatever you call humanity studies, people went to the extreme. Some people who survived the genocide, they believed God saved them, because where you were hiding, there's no way you can tell why you did not get killed. You will be around people, they kill everyone else, you find yourself still breathing. You will be hiding just in a tiny place, they just pass by and do not kill you. So most of people believed that they were saved by God. So they had to worship God. They had to be more committed to Christians or whatever religion they belong to, because they believed they were saved by God Himself, or they prayed while they were hiding and they survived. We see the other extreme of people who have been strong believers, committed to the churches, and then if you survived in that church, you will never believe again. Because it's a house of God where I went to find serenity and peace and be saved. All of a sudden, you were deceived. So people went to the extreme. So now we have a movement of other people, especially young folks, who are saying, by the way, this God was brought to us by the white man. So it's not our God. So we have to go back to the routine, not praying the sins of John or disciples of John and Peter and James. We're gonna pray our ancestors, right? So so we have, but Christianity still have a strong hold in Rwanda because the churches are always full and people are committing more to Christianity.
So, are the young people receptive of, the history, the stories that they're being taught, the full history of what occurred here?
Yes, they do. You have to understand that, Michelle, the genocide was stopped.
Right.
But there's no weapon to kill ideology.
Okay.
So the ideology, which has been going on 30 years, there are kids who are taught that Tutsi is not Rwandan, doesn't belong to Rwanda.
So that's still happening.
In a very small scale, because what Rwanda has done is to establish institutions. So we even have a law for denying the genocide, undermining, or hate crime.
Okay.
So people, even those who still have ideology, who are taught from parents to kids, they know that if you bring it up, you will face the justice. Okay. So even if it is there, but it doesn't surface. You can only see people outside Rwanda making noise, those who are very close or connected to perpetrators, their children, or those who committed genocide and now live abroad freely. They do brainwash people. They started denying the genocide. It never happened the way you say it happened. By the way, it wasn't a million of people, it was only 500 people. Who cares? I mean, why do you undermine the numbers? Right. Even 10 people were not supposed to be killed for no reason, right? So it happened. Whether it's low number, high number, except that we do know that it's actually over 1 million of people, because at the end of the day, there are villages which were completely wiped out. And we never know how many people were there. So if there are people who still have ideology, I believe Rwanda has put in place programs of unity and reconciliation, try to live peacefully. They eradicated the ethnicity in our identity. Okay. So
in other words, Hutu, Tutsi, Twa.
We are Rwandans. We are Rwandans.
We don't use that anymore.
We don't use
that is not used anymore.
No.
Yes.
Yeah.
People ask that question, and I always say no. That is not
no.
used. It's one Rwanda.
We are Rwandans, which doesn't take away the fact that I can call myself Tutsi, but I don't use that ethnic group to undermine other people.
Right.
Yeah, nobody will. I can't. And when you think about it, being Tutsi or Hutu really in this Rwanda, it doesn't give you anything more or anything less.
It's divisive.
It's just divisive.
That's all.
Yeah, that's what it is.
It's a way to divide.
Exactly. Exactly. So basically, we are proud Rwandans. And you will see a lot of initiatives about reconciliation, unity and reconciliation. If we have time, I can take you to visit one of the peace village. That's where perpetrators live with survivors, and they live in the same neighborhood. And the perpetrators have admitted what they did, and they had asked forgiveness to the survivors and tell them the story of how their families were killed. Their family members were killed. So now they live together. They share everything. They support each other. So that's very powerful. And those are the stories that you never hear outside.
That's deep.
Now the whole America is yelling about this Rusesabagina, who is a terrorist and who has accepted it, but they never share the positive stories of Rwanda.
What's happening?
Yeah.
Like in the here and now. What's
exactly.
happening?
And they never talk to people in the villages where they live together to ask them how things are going. But they say whatever.
So I have a question. How did the government in Rwanda manage to get everybody to say that they're Rwanda and to just like break down that division?
It is about policies. Knowing that if you throw hate words to me, the justice will go after you. Before there was impunity completely. Killing a Tutsi has never been a crime. But now we have policies where there's zero tolerance on hate crime, on divisions of ideology. No tolerance. So people get to understand that you can't do that. So slowly by slowly, Rwandans understood that you can't just play with those things. We don't want to go back where we came from, and no one wants to go back from where we came from. So that's why we have few elements in Western countries where they say whatever they want, but in Rwanda, no, there's zero tolerance on any division, any ideology, or any nothing. Undermining genocide, trying to change the rhetoric and the history of the genocide, it's not permitted. And I had a talk once at the City Hall in Hamilton where the councillor asked me the same question. How did you do that? And how do you know that's not going to happen again? And he went further, even asking me, do you think killing each other is in the genes of black people?
Oh, wow.
He did not say that in that blank words, but he was insinuating. I said he was struggling to find the proper words, more appropriate words. And I said, I hear you completely, but I want to tell you what. I want everyone in this room to close your eyes and think if today, it was a Friday afternoon, there was a council meeting in the City Hall. I said, if today you close, it was back in 2006 or something. I said, if you close your eyes and imagine all our first responders on a strike. The police is not working, the hospitals are not working, the ambulances are not working, the firefighters are not working. What will happen in this town? Most of you in this room will hop in their cars and take off to Toronto or to the neighboring cities. We only live in harmony as human beings only because we have laws. We have jurisdictions. We know that there are barriers there. You can only go this far to your neighbor. But if we do not have all of that, and you can only imagine many African countries don't have those laws.
Yeah.
So if you feel sick or someone attacks your home, you will call 911 and bang, in 3 minutes the police officers will be at your door.
Wow.
Not necessarily in Africa that happens. So that's what Rwanda has done, building strong institutions. Every Rwanda are treated equal. It doesn't matter who you are. There are red lines that you can't cross. And they are still building those institutions even stronger and stronger. So, and that's why we live peacefully here.
It's very peaceful.
And when I talk about peace, I know what I mean, because there was time that there was no peace. There was time I will come home and I don't know if it's gonna be in the morning. There was time when it is the morning, I don't know if I'm gonna last until the evening. So we hold that peace dearly to our hearts. Yeah.
And it is very peaceful. It's very peaceful.
It is.
I couldn't imagine it being different.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah, we've been
very
there
peaceful
before.
and very progressive. Very progressive. It's
extremely
a beautiful
progressive.
place.
Extremely progressive.
Beautiful place. Yeah.
And what I like in Rwanda is decentralized. So what you hear a citizen here in Kigali, they have same vision, same thinking, same level of thinking as a peasant in rural area. I was in Rubavu the other day, and we have this. Oh, this is a story going on off the topic, but it was very touching to me. We went to visit this spring water.
Okay.
There's a spring water where it boils. Spring water.
Hot springs.
Hot springs.
Oh.
What did I say? Spring water.
That's
hot
fine.
springs.
Hot springs. Yeah.
Yes. Hot springs.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So.
Man, wait a minute. I have to stop you. There's everything here.
Yes.
Hot springs?
Yes, we have hot springs.
Oh my
Not only in
gosh.
Rubavu, in Rusizi, in different areas. I think in Bugarama, different areas, especially along Kivu Lake.
Oh, the ecosystem.
I will take you there. In Rwanda, you find everything. I've been doing
waterfalls.
I've been touring
volcanoes,
Rwanda.
mountains,
All kind
valleys.
of birds. I was doing the
Birds.
blue. How do you call them? The blue whatever here.
They're beautiful. Yeah, they're beautiful.
So we have everything in Rwanda.
Everything.
We have volcanoes, gorillas. I give tour to some of the people, and I love touring Rwanda. You see savanna, you see volcanoes, you see all kind of species. It's amazing. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
So I was talking about this spring, hot spring. When I went to Rubavu, they do massage you. There's these young adults who massage you. They know the neurology. They tell you how good this will be for your feet, and they have these herbal plants that they use to massage you. For blood circulation, and they explain to you everything. So I was with friends from the States who are into electricity, and they were trying to take temperature of the hot springs because they are very hot. They boil eggs. You put
the water's
eggs
that hot.
on the top, and that's how hot it is. So I have to take you there one day.
And this is natural.
Natural.
Out of the ground.
It's coming underground, and you put your legs in there. People lay in it naked because apparently it's good for your nerves. Yeah, people have strokes. They go there, so it's amazing. So these young kids, that's what I wanted to come back to. As we were taking the temperature of the water, they told me, they said, "Hey, are you coming to do some projects here?" I'm like, I don't know. I'm not sure. They say like, "Well, you make sure because our president told us that this is a resource for the Rubavu people. No one is supposed to come and take away our resources. So this is for us. So if you want to do anything here, you have to go through us." I was so proud. I'm like, wow. So they understand. They understand the potential they have in their area, and they tell you exactly what they want. So it's not coming and impose them or whatever. They have a vision, and they know how to take care of their resources.
Nice.
Way back in days, before the genocide, even those public water where you go fetch water, they will be destroyed in the morning.
Well.
Not even the well, the more modern ones they build in the area so you can go fetch water. They will be destroyed because people did not have a concept of taking care of what you have, infrastructure and other things. So that shows you how not only we are building we are building homes and beautiful areas and whatever, but also human capital. We have understood that human capital is also as important. And that's why you guys, when coming here, everybody has to give their best. You have the experience from abroad, from North America. You have knowledge, you have skills. This country wants everyone to come and contribute.
Bring your skills, bring your talents.
Bring your talent. It's a country of opportunity. You can gain money by also giving back to the country.
Right.
See, yeah.
It's beautiful. And speaking of that, human capital, we read an article where about 90% of the graduates or the students from here that go away to college, they actually return home to Rwanda.
They do.
That's big.
They do.
That's
and
big.
they're very proud. Because
awesome.
because that's one of the things that Rwandan people have. Even I see that in the diaspora. When we're in abroad, you can tell that Rwandan people, even like my children, grew up in Canada, but their heart is always here. They was telling me, "Mom, we're gonna get some experience, and you're gonna come home."
Wow.
I had my niece writing. I had my niece who is in Canada writing a paper. She's only 24. She was writing a paper about Rwanda.
Ooh.
And she's a child growing up. She just wrote a beautiful op-ed about Rwanda. I was so proud of her. So you can tell that Rwandan community has something always pulling them back to their motherland.
And they're providing spaces for these young people who do come back with their education, their degrees, to have jobs and to do things to contribute to
business.
Contribute to
society. The business environment registration takes only 6. You went through that 6 hours. Yeah, and you get all the support you need.
Right. Registering your businesses.
I know, everything's online.
Yeah.
You can even do it when you're not even in
couple
Rwanda.
Hours.
So Rwanda is welcoming not only Rwandans, not only Black people, not only Africans, but everyone who comes to contribute. The only thing, no one is beyond the law. So you come here, you have to comply with what is happening.
Of course.
So it's not a place where you think you can do whatever you want. Because again, as I said, it has been 26 years. Our social fabric is still kind of sensitive. Our culture is very, very strong. Everything outside that, it's seen as abnormal. So as much as people want to come, I remember one time our president came to Canada, and he was saying, get educated, get opportunities in this country, but bring home the skills and what you have gained to help us to build the country. And then he says, but if you have taken bad stuff, keep them here, because we already I'm just paraphrasing, but he said we already have our how did he call it? I don't even remember. Like the mess. So he said we don't want the double of it. Imperfection. He says we already have our imperfections. We don't want a double imperfection. So he wants to bring the best of us to build this country, because this country is still in the process of building. We are not where Rwandans want to be. We had Vision 2020, now we have Vision 2030, we have Vision 2036, I think, and now we have Vision 2050.
Wow. But you still, like, I would say still light years ahead of a lot of places.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But it's amazing.
And great leadership.
That's right.
Great leadership. And it takes that.
It takes a great leadership. It takes a visionary person. And our president is all of that.
All of that,
And he's a man who dedicates to the people of Rwanda and forget himself. He was saying the other day to one of the journalists, he says, half of my life I lived in trenches, fighting to rebuild this country. I'm ready to go back. So that's a very strong statement. He doesn't want anyone to come and mess up.
Wow.
It took us a lot of sacrifices. It took us a lot of people died for this country.
Yeah.
We can't.
Of course.
There's no zero tolerance to whoever wants to take
tolerance.
to take us back.
Zero tolerance.
No, it's not gonna happen. And so it's amazing when after genocide, we did not have any books to see how you can bounce back from a genocide, from the chaos we were in. So nothing in the books. So we had to come up with homegrown solutions.
Okay.
We will make one step into unity and reconciliation and go back one step. We will learn as we do. We learn as we do. We had a lot of initiatives. It's amazing. Sometimes scholars come here and they can't even find a model. Our development, our recovery, our everything is beyond what they have seen in the books. Why? Because Rwandans understood that this country was destroyed by Rwandans. It has been rebuilt by Rwandans. And education, healthcare,
right.
Any kind of development, infrastructure, they had to go up together. Usually, when you're doing in economy, you have to go sections. And say, okay, we're gonna build this, and then we will build this, and then you give yourself timeline. You give yourself. It never happened in Rwanda. Our motto right after the genocide: nothing was impossible.
Nothing is impossible.
Because what we've gone through, what these men and women in uniform did to liberate this country was beyond anyone's imagination. So nothing was impossible after that.
Wow.
We've gone to the bottom of the bottom. We have bounced back by stopping the genocide. Now we have to move on. We can't lose what we have already achieved.
Nice.
And that's still the idea about Rwanda.
And I see this phrase in different parts of the city. Never again.
Never again. That's the
Never
genocide.
again.
And that was
Never again.
UN when they said it after Holocaust. But we saw it happening again and again. And it's in the same spirit that our troops are outside Rwanda in the UN peacekeeping to try to bring peace where it has been lost. Because we understood through this process that peace is important. And we have lost it. We can contribute to rebuild it again. Because we have done it here, we can do it somewhere else.
Nothing is impossible.
Nothing is impossible.
Love it. Oh my goodness, this is amazing.
Too much to unfold.
Ooh, it's a lot. It's a lot, but it's. I'm learning. I'm learning more and more and more. The more I talk to, local, or Rwandans who, like yourself, who have witnessed that, who have lived through it, and those times, and have seen the changes.
Yeah.
From way back to like 2020.
I remember after the genocide, people will come here, especially foreigners, especially Europeans and other white communities. They will say, "Well, as long as it lasts," because they couldn't believe that Africans are doing this without them. Sorry,
it's like we always need help. No,
yeah. So they always gave us like timeline. Oh. It's just for a short time. It's just for a short time.
Wow.
But that short time has become a generation, right? It's 26 years.
Hello. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. So, and I think we are committed to not going back.
Not going back.
When I see the momentum of the young people here, and I see the momentum of the young people overseas in the Rwandan diaspora, there are still few elements of young people who are born from the genocide perpetrators who can't even return home because of what they have done. They are trying to intoxicate, but we have so many other young kids who are committed to come back to this country. Even those born from the perpetrators, some of them, their parents have been brainwashing them, saying you can't go to Rwanda because Rwanda, they will kill you, But they forget that they have families here. With all the social media, those kids overseas, they see what their cousins are up to. They see how they are happy, holding good positions, going for scholarships everywhere in the world, whether they want to go. And they see that on social media, and then they are they start having this thirst to come home and experience what is happening there.
You know, through our channel, we have had the opportunity to communicate with some of those same young people and middle-aged people who are born and raised Rwandan, and they are abroad, and they're starting to say, wow, you know, just through seeing what's happening,
Absolutely.
we want to come home.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's it's humbling.
It is.
Because our whole objective was just to show truth
Exactly.
as it is.
And you're doing a very good job.
You know, so it's very, it touches, you know,
It
here.
is,
And it's
it
very
is.
humbling because I'm like, whoa, we just wanted to show the truth because, like, we're from the U.S. and everything we get is from media, right?
Right.
And we know who spins those stories,
Yeah.
right? So, and you have to pick apart certain things to figure out, is this the full truth? Is it, you know?
Yeah.
So I think in talking to you, I really, really, really appreciate this. We really appreciate this, being able to get
it's my pleasure.
those pieces of truth that we don't get.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. When I joined the group, the WhatsApp group of some of the returnees or those who want to return home to Rwanda, I was super excited. It was the time I was planning to return home too, and I was more excited than you guys were.
Wow.
I'm saying, you know what?
Just look how things happen. It's unfolding. It's like, and I've met a couple of people that, like yourself, that have come home already, who are here. There are more people coming. There are other people from the diaspora, like, I am out of here. I'm coming. We're booking our flight.
For me,
but it's like, man, it's. I really, really applaud the leadership. It takes a special person, His Excellency Paul Kagame, as well as his administration, the people of his team around him, to do what they've done to turn this country around.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I say that he's one of these people who has everything. He had everything taken, and he walked the talk. If he says I will do this, he will do. And he always puts the people ahead before himself. He's like the father of the country.
Wow.
He gave us hope. He gave us like the sense of life. He gave us even the courage to keep going. Because at the end of the day, after the genocide, most of us were just tired, exhausted, just giving up. But looking at him, I can share a story with you. My son, who is 24, a year ago, he was going through, he's doing architecture, and he was going through exams, a lot of work-related stress and school stress. And one night he was in Ottawa, and 6 hours from home. And in the night when he was doing his schoolwork, he started feeling just agitated. He was exhausted. And then he called me because he wanted me to comfort him.
Oh, wow.
I was sleeping. I couldn't get me. He called his brother. He couldn't get him. And then he decided that he needed something to motivate himself. He put on President Kagame's YouTube's video.
Wow.
And he was boosted. And he told me, he says, I was sitting in my living room feeling absolutely overwhelmed, not know what to do, couldn't get you on the phone, couldn't get my brother on the phone. And I just decided to put these videos, and knowing his past, that he lived in trenches, and look where he is. He's always telling us to occupy the high table. And I was motivated. I couldn't allow myself the luxury to feel down or to feel overwhelmed or to lose my mind, because he has been through all of this, and I did not even live a percentage of his life. But he's still committed to that country that he liberated 26 years ago, after living in trenches another 4 years ago, and after fighting for Uganda. So he says, just listening to him, his voice, the words, he had everything I needed at that point. He had listened to gospel music. It couldn't boost him. He had listened to all kind of preachers. They couldn't lift his spirit. But when he listened to the president, he was telling me it just boosted my mind. I just came back to myself and saying, hey, I have no luxury to give up. I have to keep going. So that was like, wow, look, he's miles away, but he still has his role model here. It's amazing. And he has been a role model for many young people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, you know,
He is raining.
yeah, he's someone who not only talks it,
It's raining. We got to
And-
shut
but
it down.
Yeah,
he
he walks
walks
the talk. Yes.
everything he talks about, he does
He
it.
does.
Yes.
Yes. So, it's been amazing having you, my sister.
Thank you so much.
Miss
I
Chantal,
appreciated the time.
and definitely we look forward to doing this again, but we want to definitely visit that village you keep talking about. Definitely
problem.
that's something awesome to see.
No problem.
We love you, sister,
I love you too.
and
Peace.
thank you so much for everything
you.
you've given us here today. All the
Thank
you know
Thank you.
Yes.
pieces of proof and your journey.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we are unapologetic. No mask. And we're unapologetic.
No, no.